Monday afternoon, May 13th, about 2:50 in the afternoon. Over the weekend, I worked on Bob's laptop computer and his desktop computer in the office. I talked to you about this before where we were talking about using OneDrive. I had done some research with YouTube videos trying to find a video that would be useful for him. Contemplating making the video myself, took a few stabs at it, and the catch is that I really couldn't duplicate the same symptoms that he would be, or the same situation that he would be operating in. And I just wound up deciding this is silly. I just went ahead and moved his files into the cloud and tested it with his office desktop computer and this new laptop, and was quite pleased with it, except for a couple of points, which I'll get to in a moment. I sent him a text this morning asking when he'd be in the office for me to be able to give him a rundown on this. I never heard back from him. I sent him an email later in the morning with the same effect, and then I found out or came to realize that he probably wasn't going to be coming in at all on Monday today. I'm a little nervous about it because I didn't tell him I was going to go ahead and do it. And if he winds up going to his desktop computer at the office and trying to open a recently opened file from the recently opened files list in Microsoft Word or Excel, he's going to get a message that the file's not there. Then if he goes to look at his My Documents folder using Windows Explorer and going through the user folder, which I think is highly unlikely for him to do, he's also going to find his files not there. His My Documents folder has been redirected to the folder on his hard drive where OneDrive files are stored. And this is something that happens when you tell OneDrive that you want to have OneDrive manage the My Documents folder. It essentially redirects the My Documents folder to a different location. I've used this before on other computers for other purposes, meaning redirecting the My Documents folder. For instance, if a C drive is very short on space, and I want to have My Documents folder be on a D drive or even on a network drive, the My Documents folder can be redirected to that in such a way that in Microsoft Word or Excel, when you go use the file open command, the file open location will be redirected to that new location. The My Documents folder, the My Pictures folder, the Music folder, the Movies folder, those are all special folders to Windows, and they have some special characteristics. They're part of the user profile, and they behave a little differently. However, the recently opened files list in the Microsoft Office programs, such as Word and Excel, they don't get redirected or renamed, so that if you try to open something from there, it's still trying to go into the user's profile folder and the documents folder as a subfolder of that. And so if you click on one of the recently used files, you get a message saying the file's not there. Well, I considered that I could remove those from his recently accessed files list, but I thought that, well, he might care about what's on that list in the sense of if he has a reason to want to know what he's opened recently. He didn't have any of those files pinned to the file open listing. So anyway, I'm a little nervous that he might stumble across that and give me a call. Hey, what'd you do to my computer? And we'll just deal with it if that happens. Probably won't. Another thing that happened with that over the weekend is the laptop that he bought it with Microsoft Office Professional 2019, the full purchase version. So not the subscription to Office 365. Now, I wasn't involved in configuring this purchase. I would have recommended a different approach to it because he has subscriptions available through the Office, and each user can install on up to 5 different computers and 5 different mobile devices with the one subscription. The way he did the purchase said one license goes to one computer for the life of that computer. It's not transferable as far as I know. Anyway, I could not get that license to activate. I spoke by phone with the technician who helped him at his home on the coast. He has a different technician that helps him there. And he created a Outlook.com email address just for the purposes of activating that license, and it did activate, which he concluded, and I conclude, that the license is actually imaged onto the hard drive of those laptop computers. When I tried to activate the license through his Office 365 business, Office 365 for Business Microsoft account, it wouldn't activate that way. I think it's going to have to be a personal account. So don't have an answer on that yet. Another thing I did over the weekend was actually spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos about publishing YouTube videos, which I've watched a lot in the past as it is, and did some more strategizing about my own channel. And I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and put a image of my YouTube videos right now so you can see how many views it's had and how many subscriptions I've had. I think I'm showing a very steady growth of 0 per month. I think it's kind of funny to be recognizing that at this point. I've done no marketing at this point, and I am proving that if you don't do marketing on your videos and you don't have a click enticing thumbnail, then your videos aren't going to get watched. That's okay. It's part of my plan. I have a kind of a unique plan for how I'm doing this channel. But I wanted to show where I'm at this point. This is Tech Tales number 10, if I forgot to mention that earlier. So I've published 10 Tech Tales so far, and they're getting pretty much 0 attention. I do know one person who viewed them, and I think those are the only 2 likes that I have on a couple of those videos. That was because I was asking him to check on something that I was talking about in one of those videos. I'm going to pop in here with a voiceover edit. These dates you see as almost every day over the last 4 days. And then over the total of 2 weeks, I published the 10 videos. And you see the 14, 10, 8, 14, 6. Pretty much I think all of those were my views of the videos. And there's 0 comments. And those 2 likes right there on Tech Tales number 2 and number 3, those are the ones that are from an acquaintance of mine who was looking at it, I'm pretty sure. So really there's no views here at all. So anyway, more about that later. This morning, I went out to SJ, the pest control company. I've talked to you before about them. They had called me on Friday, wanted me to pick up a laptop computer. Brett in their office, he's their in-house technical person. It's not really his job, but he's kind of the person in their office who has sort of stepped forward for dealing with tech issues as much as he can in the house, and he's my point of contact. Well, he installed Windows 10 on this laptop and says it's really running slow. And he told me a little bit about the history. This laptop belonged to Fran in their office, which I've talked about Fran before. This was, I guess, an older laptop of his, and they want to use it for general purpose uses in the office. And I told them, well, look, if there's nothing on it that you care about, and it has history to it, and it's running slow, really the best thing to do is just wipe and reload. Reformat the hard drive, install Windows 10 from scratch, and computers can really have a new lease on life that way. And I was just telling him that that's the approach to take, not knowing whether he was going to do it himself or ask me. And he said, why don't you come pick up it and do it? I'm not sure if he was indicating he didn't have interest or didn't have time or what, but he just told me to. So I went and picked that up this morning. I went to the PW law office this morning. That's where Bob works, the senior attorney with the Lenovo laptop that I'm working on. 2 of them. He bought 4. I'm working on 2 of them. And what I did there was I fixed the printing of timesheets for Connie. I mentioned that before. That involved just deleting the printer icon. And there were 2 of them for that printer. I think one of them probably would have been working right, but the default was the wrong one. And it was the printer driver that Windows 10 installs automatically when it is directed to install a driver for that copy machine. And the solution is to run a setup program from Toshiba that scans the network and installs a generic printer driver for the Toshiba. And that worked just fine. Then also in that office, I did a redirect, forwarding for a staff member who is going to be out for a period of time, forwarding to another person in the office, and set up an autoresponder to let people know that she's out of the office and who they should be contacting. The person they were going to be contacting is in an office space that had a faulty Ethernet jack. And we've been using the computer in that office on wireless connection for quite a while, and it's been problematic because the Wi-Fi access point is just got a little bit too much walls to go through, and it's been flaky. So I got a little impatient with it last Thursday when I realized somebody else was going to be moving into that office, and I realized I don't want to go through training another person for how to fix the Wi-Fi every time it goes bad. So I just ordered the replacement parts to fix the wall jack, which I've never done before. So I've got some pictures here for you. Here's a picture of the new jack and the old jack next to each other. You can see the tab on the top of the old jack is broken off and the casing's broken, and then on the other side the clip that holds it into the wall plate is broken. And because it was broken, this wall jack had just pushed back into the wall and was not even accessible. It would have been irrelevant to get to it anyway because it's so broken. Then when I put in the new jack using the instructions that were on Amazon, right on the screen for ordering this product, and I want to put it in the wall, I realized there's this gray pipe behind the place where in the wall where this jack goes. You can see it there. And if I would have put this in, it would have been pressing against that. And I think that's probably what caused the other one to crack, because it also had the wire out the back. So I just pulled the top off of the new jack and resituated the wire so that it comes out the bottom of the jack, and now that wall plate fits against the wall really nicely. So there's another experience where I've done something new this week that I've never done before, and this is Monday. Then also in that office, one of the staff people who was going to be out of the office for a while, I had already forwarded her email to one of the other attorneys and set up a autoresponder. Well, there's a second attorney in the office who also wanted to receive the missing staff members' emails because she doesn't want to wait for the first forwarder to evaluate and decide that it needs to be forwarded to Susan. Now, the Office 365 email administration screen only lets me forward to one email address. The system we had before would let me forward to multiple email addresses. So what I did is I set up a second account in Susan's Outlook to receive this person's email, and then showed Susan how it works, because now there's an inbox for Susan, and then down lower is an inbox for Gina. And when Susan receives emails destined for Gina, they're going to come into that bottom inbox, and they're not going to have the FWD designation at the beginning of the subject line as she was used to seeing in the past. And that's because emails aren't being forwarded to her. She's actually receiving them as though she is Gina. And then I demonstrated to her now this is an example of when you do things for a client, you need to think 3 steps ahead of them. What side effect is this change going to cause? So I demonstrated to her, if you go down to Gina's inbox, pick one of those emails and try to reply to it, notice the from line. It indicates that the email is coming from Gina. But if you click on this arrow on that from field, you can switch to choose your name, Susan. And then you can go over to the signatures button and you can select your signature so that then the email looks like it's coming from you. However, it's going to be stored in Gina's Sent Items folder. Well, here's another voiceover edit. Don't I just look like I'm not really sure about what I just said? Well, I just checked, and when Susan sends an email that came to Gina and selects herself as the sender, it is stored in Susan's Sent Items folder, not Gina's Sent Items folder. So I wanted to spell out those issues for her. Well, I think that's probably good for this update, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.